Call the Kitty Hawk Town Council to order this special meeting on Monday, March 15, 2021, Kitty Hawk Town Hall. It's now 6 o'clock, close enough forward. Welcome. Will you join us for a moment of silence in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Good evening. Almost 3 years ago, the idea that building an access from the county-owned Kitty Hawk Town Park to town-owned conservation land seemed like a good idea. The access would have proper parking, which is not available to any other access point anywhere in the conservation zones. The Recreation Committee and Council both agreed, and the manager with staff put in a lot of effort and 2 separate attempts to get a PARTIF grant plus the Tourist Bureau grant for the project. The North Carolina Division of Coastal Management has been aware of the intent and progress of the project. After receiving the PARTIF grant, it came as something of a shock when the Coastal Reserve Program staff informed the manager that the town would be required to participate in a Memorandum of Understanding, known as an MOU, regarding construction of the access, and that bikes and horses would not be allowed on the town-owned land. Subsequent conversation backed off on the horse prohibition, but was steadfast in the biking issue. The reserve program staff at that point proceeded to post no bikes on existing trails that have been in use and maintained by volunteers for many years. To date, the town has not received a draft of any MOU. Is that still correct?
That's correct.
The PARTIF grant has a footnote that requires the reserve program staff to sign off on the contract before construction can start. Program staff has indicated they will not sign off if the town insists on pushing for the historical use of bikes on conservation land. Before proceeding with possible options available to the town to fight for the right of citizens to access and enjoy properly regulated and monitored historical use of conservation land, I will read into the record the executive summary of the 1998 Kitty Hawk Woods Reserve Management Plan for the benefit of those watching or listening remotely. Executive summary. Kitty Hawk Woods is an exceptionally beautiful and special natural play area. It is very valuable in an ecological sense due to the presence of rare species, extensive forested wetlands, and a high diversity of flora and fauna. The maritime deciduous and maritime swamp forest communities found in Kitty Hawk Woods are known to exist in fewer than 5 locations worldwide. The woods also mean a lot to the local residents who see the area as a part of their heritage. Others enjoy the woods through hiking, hunting, biking, and horseback riding. This plan strives to balance the research, education, and recreational uses of the woods, always keeping in mind that we are striving to preserve the natural, cultural, scientific, and aesthetic values of the woods. Management and ownership of the Kitty Hawk Woods Reserve is a joint effort among the North Carolina Division of Coastal Management, Coastal Reserve Program, Town of Kitty Hawk, and local residents. This plan was developed through the efforts of all these groups. This plan outlines the roles that specific organizations and individuals will play in managing the reserve, includes regulations to protect the area, and recommends several long and short-term management actions. It is important to keep in mind that this is a fluid document and will change as needed to meet the conservation goals of the Kitty Hawk Woods Reserve. Now, at my instruction, the town attorney reviewed pertinent documents and believes citizens have a valid right to continued historical use of bikes, horses, hiking, and hunting on town-owned conservation land. What option does the town have to get this project underway and fight for those historically documented uses? I'm going to talk now to a couple of things that we need to discuss tonight, and then I'm going to ask council for a question before we proceed with any other discussion. Acceptance of the Partif grant commits the town to acceptance of whatever reserve program staff decide to impose in order to sign off on the contract. That acceptance also limits town pushback on uses such as biking on trails. A decision to forego the Partif grant, use town funds for crossover construction, removes the contract requirement for reserve staff sign-off. The town believes it also removes any requirement for an MOU, since the crossover becomes a town-owned project connecting county property to town-owned property. It also puts us in a better position to fight for continued bike use of trails that were in use for years prior to recent restrictive postings. So, we're faced with a couple of issues. Continuing with what we've got and acceptance of the program staff, or fight back. Now, council, normally we hear from people last, after we've made discussion. There's a difference here. This is almost like a hearing without a hearing. And my question to you is, do you want to hear, there's a lot of people here that have something to say. Do you want to hear them before we make any discussion?
Most definitely. Yes, sir.
We all in agreement? All right. We're going to open this up for discussion. If you're speaking for a group of people, please tell us how many, if you know, and we'll limit that to 5 minutes. If you're speaking for yourself, we're going to limit you to 3 minutes, because we don't want to all be here all night, and I think the point you're going to make will be made within those time frames. All right? That said, Ben?
Paul Henriquez. And let me know 3 or 5 minutes, please.
I don't know how many people, but I would say 5 minutes. I know I'm speaking for other.
Okay, thank you.
For the recreation department, he needs 5 minutes.
Well, I want to say first, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Town Council, for holding this special meeting. It's really appreciated that you're listening to the people of not only Kitty Hawk, but Dare County, so I appreciate that. My name is Paul Henriquez. I've been a resident, I've owned a house in Kitty Hawk for 18 years. I've been a resident for 25 years, living in Kitty Hawk. I've been riding bikes for 46 years of my life. I've competed in most forms of cycling. Currently, I've been riding mostly mountain bikes. Keep active, it's safe, and it keeps me happy. And it's certainly safer than riding on the road. So that's why I've been concentrating on having that be my fun. So I brought, and I'm going to say that these are probably at this point, these are more props than anything, but I brought 2 documents. And I'd love to, my plan was to go through and be very specific and state percentages and statistics and wow you with my knowledge of all this stuff, but I think I've decided against that. Mr. Mayor, you said most of what I was going to say in the executive summary, and that was that bicycles are part of the management plan, and they have been a part of the management plan since it was created in 1998. So I'm going to get to that second, but this is the North Carolina Outdoor Recreational Plan. And there again, I'm not going to go and try to go through all my statistics on what this says, but in general what this says is it represents the popularity and the increased popularity of things like mountain biking. And it's statistics, it's through surveys, it's through how grants are rated and how funds are allocated, is through this document. And within this document, if anybody wants to take it home, and it's only 179 pages, and read it, go feel free. But within this document, it's reiterated time after time. The percentages surveyed, it's from recreational managers. There's statistics in here that says recreational managers ranked which type of facilities are urgently needed. Unpaved trails top the list, and mountain bikes were the second ranked group for mountain biking. And this was above natural park area, nature trails, baseball, football fields, and no disrespect to the horse enthusiasts here. I hope we all want access to this plan, but it was actually 25% higher than horseback riding trails. So this is a statewide recreational need and desire. And that's all I'll say about this document here. The second one, and this is just to reiterate, I think, the need of this activity statewide recreationally. So now the Kitty Hawk Woods Reserve Management Plan. By reading the executive summary, you hit on probably 3 of my first points, Mr. Mayor, so I'm not going to reiterate those. But part of this plan, this was created in 1998. This is, in what's stated in here, is this supposed to be an active, live document that's looked at every year. And it's supposed to be looked at by the local area committee, the state, and the town. Has this been updated or looked at since 1998? Has any updates been made to this at all? Has any of the local area committee looked at it or made any improvements? And the reason I ask that is because I think since 1998, things like mountain biking have become a lot more popular and much more of a need. And because it was stated in there from day one, and that it's becoming even more popular and more of a need, and people are seeking activity through that, positive activity. Exercise makes people happy, gets them outdoors to enjoy this land. I'll tell you one thing, in the summer, riding a bike through that land, you stay ahead of the mosquitoes, where there's not gonna be people wanting to go hike back there in the summer, but you can ride through there and stay ahead of all the bugs, so still use the property and enjoy it. So, of this plan, biking is listed throughout. There's also references to a volunteer program that references Wheels of Dare Bike Club, and it states that this club was included in this plan for things like maintenance of the trail and upkeep of the trail. I'm all over these trails, walking, hiking, biking, all over the trails in the reserve, all over the town. And I can say one thing, I know nobody from Coastal Reserve is maintaining and keeping these trails open, safe, clear. There's down trees all over the place. So, is that my time?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me just say one final thing. An acknowledgement in the Coastal Reserve Management Plan was to George Wood. George Wood is a local environmental professional. He has helped create this document. He was specifically thanked in this document. I talked to him for 2 hours last week. And I just want to quote something that he said, because I think he put it very, very well. He said, just like most management plans, they reflect the compromised needs of the community at the time. Management plans benefit from periodic updates that reflect the consideration of balanced use that reflect not uses even imagined in earlier times. This project embraces healthy lifestyle options that recognizes activity that are currently desired, but also project into the future for the next generation. I encourage people, not of my age, but of my children's age, to lead the effort. Kitty Hawk has a forward-thinking leadership, so I feel confident that not only this project can proceed, but also lead other communities to follow. And I think he couldn't have put it better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have
Thank
two
you, Paul.
questions
Yes, sir.
before you leave. You've been riding the trails, and a lot of the people that I assume are outside
Most
showing
of the people
support.
in here also.
For how many years?
15 years plus. Joe Anloff, right here, he's been building trails in Kitty Hawk and riding them for at least that long.
Okay, so, and during all that time, has anybody from the reserve staff said you shouldn't do this?
No, it was 2 weeks ago that they started posting no bikes allowed and tearing out log overs, dead log overs and stuff like that
Okay.
that have been built.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Lynn, next.
Joe Henloff.
Good evening. Thank you. Joe Anloff, 4721 West Eckner Street. Lived there since 1999. I live on the east side of that 460-acre reserve, and I've been hunting in there since 1999. I've probably tread on ground that no one for 100 years has set foot on. You have to.
Are you speaking for yourself? Or-
I'm speaking for myself and my wife and children, because I'm an avid cyclist, both road and off-road. Been riding since I was 16, racing like Paul. You know, it's part of our lives. My wife and daughters own 3 horses, so I'm here for both groups. This executive summary says biking and horseback riding is part of the program. What I feel is happening is that there is an anti-bike movement where we're saying hiking is plausible, horseback riding will be tolerated, but bikes, no go. To me, that's unacceptable. You started your statement by saying, are we going to cooperate or fight? I want you to fight for bikes.
All right,
And that's it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn? Oh, you're setting your timer.
Well, those were the 2 speakers, Jesse Davis.
Yes. I just need the short set, 3 minutes.
Okay.
My name is Jesse Davis. I'm a Dare County resident. Been a mountain biker my whole life. I just want to make 3 quick points. The first point relates to cycling in general. I mean, I don't have to say to anybody here that exercise is a good thing, that being outdoors is a good thing, that being in the woods is even a better thing. Mountain biking combines all those things, and it's fun for kids, it's fun for adults, and it gets cyclists away from the roads and from the cars where they can be safe. I think cycling in Dare County is a bit of a challenge at times, so I think anytime we can provide a safe environment, that's a good thing. Second point I want to make relates to precedent. Mountain bike trails exist within nature preserves all over the world. Here in North Carolina, the Brumley Preserve, Nature Preserve, which is located near Chapel Hill, has 11 miles of mountain bike trails. Recently, on a trip to Florida, I rode the Mabry Carlton Nature Preserve. It had over 20 miles of mountain bike trails. You know, I'm sure these places are just as dedicated to their mission of preservation as Kitty Hawk Woods is, but they've figured out a way to make it work. Third point I want to make relates to advocacy and volunteers. By bringing mountain bikers into Kitty Hawk Woods, you're essentially adopting an advocacy group that would be available if you need them. Also, and perhaps most importantly, you're taking on a volunteer labor force. Because I can tell you this trail that we're talking about accessing essentially does not exist. If you were to try to walk it, you would get about a third of the way into it and the trail would just disappear into the woods. A mountain biker will stop and move a stick off the trail before proceeding. I mean, that's the kind of meticulous care you get. And I guess finally, I just want to say I grew up in a National Park Service family. I understand the importance of preservation, and I understand that the rules are there for a reason, but you know, I think where there's a will and there's a need, there's a way, and I think it can be made to work. And that's all I say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions.
That's all right.
Thank you, Jess.
Jeff Scott.
You must be outside.
For those that are watching, some people are outside, and because of COVID restrictions, we're having to rotate folks in and out.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me talk tonight. I'm Jeff Scott. I live on Shady Lane since 1997 off of Worthington. And I spend quite a lot of time back in Kitty Hawk Woods exercising, walking and running, and probably 200 times over the last year. So I think occasionally I'll run into somebody on a bike back there. Never had a problem with any of them. Always friendly. So I feel fine sharing the trails with them. And I think if they're allowed, that then they will help maintain those trails as well. Also, I think it would be good to keep people off the roads. They can use those trails to, they're a lot safer place than being on the side of one of these roads to and from main part of Kitty Hawk. So I'm for it. I think it would be good to allow them to be on in the woods in Kitty Hawk. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Summer Casper.
Am I allowed to pull this down?
If you want to.
Just enough. Hi, my name is Summer Casper. I am a local. I'm a native. My family is. I'm speaking on the behalf of Midget Road. We have had several instances that have been documented where we've had destruction of property for people using the trail already. So what local people and native people call the secret trail is known to the people that use it frequently. We've had numerous, I have a scrapbook full of pictures of families and dogs and people that come through the gates that we have up because we actually butt up to the Conservancy itself. So at the end of the trail is our property. And at the end of the trail, instead of people turning around and leaving, they come through our property. They've taken down pieces of fencing. We are also horse owners. So we have about 4,000 pounds of animal that these people choose to walk through. Some carrying bikes, some carrying strollers, and other people. So we support people using it for all kinds of things. It's beautiful. It should be left untouched. It's beautiful just the way it is. But there's no management or regulation to it as is. We've had people shoot deer on our property and come into the property and drag them off, even while our children and horses are there. So whatever you choose is completely up to y'all. But the management, how it's been handled, has tied the sheriff's department's hands and the town's hands because of it being coastal reserve. So when we contact coastal reserve, therefore you have to contact Fish and Wildlife or a game warden. It's a runaround. There's no management to, and I don't mean any disrespect whatsoever, but there's no management to what's already there. Hunting is already allowed. Hiking is already allowed. Biking, horses, all of those things that we have fought hard to keep, especially as a horse community here for us to use. But the safety of our animals, of my kids, of the people that are coming into private property, that's a huge issue. And when you're opening up an access and you're bringing people in from all over that aren't aware of the other landowners that butt up against it, it's a disaster waiting to happen. A 1,200-pound animal, a biker, and a pedestrian all on the same bike path. That's kind of where we're at with the questions and concerns that we have. Also, how will it be maintained and managed? The town maintains the bike path and keeps it clean. This is coastal reserve, which means there will be waste and trash that'll be left behind with people coming in and out. So I appreciate your time and our concern for it. Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Thank you, Summer.
Yes, sir.
You're worried about people that have come in the trail from Kitty Hawk Estates or someplace like that.
Yes, sir.
But if we put the crossover, then they have an in and an out that doesn't involve your property. You don't have that now.
No, there's not an in and out to it. Apparently, according to the map, they're supposed to be told to turn around when they see the part that says coastal reserve and the other part that says no trespassing, but it's not managed already. So our concern is this: with nobody already paying attention to the maps that are published or the signs that are put up or the pieces of ribbon that have been tied for these people to use already, it's still a free-for-all. So with the access being there, it draws in more people. It draws more attention. It draws more traffic.
So you're against the access?
Yes, sir.
All right?
Yes,
thank
sir. Thank you.
you. Thank you, thank you.
Jesse Boston.
How you doing?
I'll be brief. I know there's a lot of people here. I grew up here. I lived here 35 years, born and raised. I've known Sonny. I think I got my first bicycle from Chip when I was 10 years old. And I just want to say that I think it'd be a really good thing for to have bike access on these trails in Kitty Hawk. Everyone I know that's been excited about it are family people that have lived here for 20, 30 years. I think it'd be a good influence on our community, the young people, and just a positive thing. I like to bike in the woods right now, and there's been no issues with the pedestrians and the people on their bikes thus far. Everybody gets along, and the bikers definitely care about not harming anything, any vegetation or anything like that. And I'll be brief, and that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica Stump.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say, on behalf of the Kitty Hawk horse owners, we appreciate continued support of us and our horse endeavors. We're small but mighty. We've been in Kitty Hawk since 1986, and we really appreciate the town and everything that you guys have done to allow us to have access. I am all about sharing. I think it's great that, we could have a beautiful trail to share with everybody, and as long as everybody's respectful towards each other, I think that will be beneficial to everybody. And I loved hearing what you guys said about maybe having a bigger cutoff just so folks can't come further towards the private property, so that we know kind of that, to the left of wherever that trail will be is, access for the trail versus coming over towards the Casper's land. I think that would alleviate a lot of concerns from the folks that I've talked to. So, but thank you for your support, and I hope everybody takes as good a care of the preserve as we've tried to over the years. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
That's all that I have signed up, Mayor.
All right, first thing, is there somebody out there?
We have one more.
Okay.
Valerie. Valerie.
Good evening. My name's Valerie Netsch, and I reside in Nags Head, North Carolina. And I'm not a great public speaker, but I am very passionate about bicycling. My husband and I, Robert, he's not here tonight because he had to go get his COVID shot, but we've been cyclists since we've been in our 20s. Rode across country when we graduated from college, have been bicycle racers for well over 10 years, did the whole thing, criteriums and road races and cyclocross. And then we discovered mountain biking, which is really a love of our life right now, that we're late in our 50s and we don't want to get banged up bicycle crashing any longer. I was hit on my bicycle in Southern Shores probably 10 years ago. And I was on the bike path and I still got hit. So I'm kind of over riding on the road, but having the access here in Kitty Hawk and these bicycle trails is amazing for my husband, myself, our community. There are so many people standing out in that parking lot right now that are supporting this effort to keep the trails open, but feel like they're not confident enough to come in here and speak. Incidentally, my husband and I got in the car this weekend. We rode 2.5 hours to Centerville and rode Freedom Trails in Virginia. Amazing, amazing trails. Much, 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 much bigger than this. But what that community did for their community in allowing this mountain bike accessing, and some of them are multi-use trails, some of them are just biking, and some of them are just pedestrian. But they made it work for everyone. And I hear management. I was listening on YouTube outside of the woman that lives off of Midget Road. I get that. People cannot go onto other people's property. They cannot damage other people's property. I mean, using a gun to kill a deer, I mean, it's just absurd. Yes, there has to be management. And right now, many of us are managing the trail on our own, keeping it groomed, keeping the trash picked up, and so on and so forth. Does there need to be more management? Absolutely, especially after listening to her. I had no idea that anything like that could happen. So yes, access points, ins and outs, more stringent guidelines of where you ride and how you ride, so you're not encroaching on other people's property on the perimeter. That should be worked out, absolutely. But it can be if we all work together. There are little kids out there. It's safe to ride off the road. As much as I love having the bicycle trails, you know, and every town is making exorbitant efforts in making these trails link up to keep people and pedestrians safe off the road. But it's when people are riding their bicycles, you know, there's parking lots and the driveways and whatnot. When you're out in the woods and you're in nature, we don't have the cars out there. And it's just really needed. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Okay, do you have some sense of how many people are out in the parking lot?
Took a legal pad out, and everyone that's out there is signing.
Okay.
We'll have it for the record, how many people are here.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert Dench from Nags Head. I like to ride my bike quite a lot on the road and on the trails, and I think we had some more trail riding in the Outer Banks. Kitty Hawk in general, it would be a fantastic thing to have. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for having this tonight. Appreciate that. My name is Chip Cowan. I'm actually a resident of Southern Shores. I own Outer Banks Bicycle. We've had that business for 26 years. We provide a lot of the people of this town with their cycling needs. I just want to say that, man, what a great thing the trails are for the community. We've been riding some trails recently, and man, to see the people out there when it's nice, kids, parents, adults, cyclists, walkers, dog walkers, it's wonderful. So I hope you take that in consideration when you decide to yay or nay this project, how great it is of a resource for the town, for everyone. Thank you.
Question.
Sure.
You do bicycles.
Yes, sir.
There's mountain bikes, then there's hybrid bikes.
Yeah, correct. Cruisers?
Nobody would, yeah, cruiser, but a cruiser wouldn't work in that environment?
Well, no. In fact, at some of the trails that we're riding right now, 2 Sundays ago, there was probably 30 kids on little tiny single speed bikes with their parents. If you can't ride up the hills, they're walking up the hills and they're riding. So you can pretty much ride anything, okay? Now, it's easier on a bike with some gears, but sure, I mean, it's just about enjoying nature and being outside more than anything else.
And was this riding you're talking on the reserve or somewhere else?
Somewhere else, private property.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
But a lot of people, the point was how much, when we were out there, we see so many people enjoying themselves. And if the town had the opportunity to make that available to everyone, man, how wonderful would that be?
Well, they seem to be targeting on a mountain bike.
Well, that's what they call it. So if you want to ride a bike in the dirt, you generally want a wider tire so it's safer, okay? But a beach cruiser has a wide tire. I could ride my beach cruiser through the trails that we're contemplating. It'd just be a little more difficult because there's no gears. So you get to a little hill and it's hard to get up the hill. But I could hop up and walk up the hill. But that's what we're talking about. Mountain bikes generally have wide tires. A road bike has a tire about that wide. So you wouldn't really want to do that unless you're showing off in the dirt. But you could ride a hybrid. Basically, it's trails through the woods that aren't paved. And so it's more nature, nicer, no traffic. You get to enjoy that more.
Okay, well, the point I was trying to make is they seem focused on bikes called mountain bikes.
Correct. And I think that may be narrowing the focus and the idea. That's kind of what we call that, mountain biking, because if I was going to ride from here to Kerala, I wouldn't be mountain biking technically. I could ride my mountain bike from here to Kerala, not to confuse things more, but I could ride my beach cruiser to Kerala. But if I was going to ride from here to Kerala and back, I would take my road bike, because I'm a bicycle shop guy. I have lots of bicycles, okay? If I was going to fish for bass in the canals behind my house, I'd use one fishing rod. If I was going to fish in the ocean, I'd use a different fishing rod. But I could use both. My bass rod and my trout rod aren't that dissimilar. But they're calling it mountain biking just to sort of give it a name.
Okay,
But generally, it's riding bicycles, and we're not walking dogs.
that's right.
Okay, just to give that a name. So I don't want to. So that way, I think that term is more relative than you're thinking it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hunter Crum, and I am a resident of Kitty Hawk. Me and my friends typically on like the weekends walk out in the early mornings to trails or to the beach sometimes to get exercise and to be out with nature and to just generally be more healthy with our lives. And on the roads, I've seen people get hit, almost get hit, and just a lot of danger. So I think that for the general help of all people around our area, it'd probably be in the best interest that we extend the trails and make accesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, huh?
That's it? All right, now the phone.
All participants have been unmuted.
Good evening. If you're on the phone line and have public comment, please state your name and address for the record. Is there anybody on the phone that would like to speak? Now's your opportunity.
There are 2 participants in the meeting.
Last opportunity if you're on the phone for public comment. Okay.
All right, let the record show there was no one else come forward.
All participants have been muted.
All right, and there's no one else in the audience that wants to stand up that hasn't? All right, last chance. All right, council, we've heard a lot, and a lot of people have been represented. Yes, you want to speak?
Mayor, I would like to speak. Hello, my name is Alex Harvey. I am a resident of Kitty Hawk. I have lived on the Outer Banks all my life. Me and my friend who just spoke do walk in the early mornings. Sometimes we walk, and I am an average cyclist. I, on occasion, ride mountain bikes on the trails where it is permitted. And I would just like to say that this crossover would be a huge boon as it allows for
people to safely cycle to the areas where they might have previously not been able to so easily, safely ride their bikes. As although I have not personally witnessed this, I have never felt safe riding my bicycle on Kitty Hawk Road, because no amount of helmets, knee pads, or arm pads is going to protect you from someone texting and driving, a drunk driver going around a corner at any amount above the speed limit. And I personally feel like this would also allow for more people to participate in healthy activities and also just for, I lost my train of thought there. I guess I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Last call. Record will show no one else came forward. All right, council, we have two different things to deal with, I guess, in a sense. One is how do we handle the crossover, and whether we allow the state to dictate to us or we do something different on our own. And then where do we go from there would be the second question. So let's entertain the first one first.
Which one we gonna go with first?
Yeah.
Which one you wanna start with?
The crossover and whether or not we're going to take it over, or we're going to wait and do the MOU and whatever the state imposes to keep the Partif grant. In other words, the Partif grant is, if we do the Partif grant, we got to eat whatever they give us. If we fund it through the town, at least those two things go away from that, and we've got a different fight on our hands. But it's an easier fight.
Okay.
Well, we think it's an easier fight.
Well, I personally think the residents have pretty much made it loud and clear tonight. They've showed up. It's taken a lot of courage, and thank everybody to get up. I know some of you guys and ladies, it took an awful lot to get up and speak, and I appreciate that. I think they've spoke loud and clear. I almost feel bad, you know, we started this project and then we were going so well, and not only are we moving forward, we've gone backwards, and things that we had now have been taken away. And what next is what concerns me. What next? I feel like at this time, I mean, they're going to pick and choose like what we're hearing right now, that I feel like maybe we should try to go about this some other way, personally.
All right. Thank you. You want to go next?
I think we've got a lot of concerns on the table here. A lot of things have come to light tonight. I am very much in favor of the mountain bikes. I would really hate to turn down some state money, grant money, but if they're going to tell us what we can and cannot do, we need management that is not being taken care of. That's come out tonight. Ms. Casper's concern is very important to me. The signs that have been posted, why were they posted 2 weeks ago? What can we do about that? I am very much in favor of this connector trail, the crossover, connecting the two trails. And again, I would hate to turn down state grant money, but if we can maybe go do it on our own and alleviate some of these issues, I'm for it.
Okay. Yeah.
I definitely think that anyone who has been using the trail up till now, aside from the folks who have been trespassing on Ms. Casper's land, but anybody that has been using it, and apparently quite a few people have been using it, and no one knew they were using it.
Or they didn't say anything.
Or they haven't had any problems. The so-called management group obviously was unaware of it, or once we decided to give them a good access to the property for people to use it, they decided, oh, no, we can't have that now. But Kitty Hawk is a town of traditions. It is a town of, the people have been doing things for generations. And I don't think it's fair that just to have an access, we take away a lot of the joy of people using a property. So if the part of grant's going to impose restrictions, then I think we need to go ahead and say, thank you very much, and just Kitty Hawk has always been willing to do things their way when they can.
Yeah, there's truth to that. You know, stubborn, I think that's called, but anyway.
So, yeah, we can do it.
David?
Well, it's easier to go last, but I don't want to go first. I tend to agree with what everybody's saying. I think the residents of not just Kitty Hawk, but Dare County have come out and let us know how they feel. I hate to turn down state money, but I'm prepared to make a motion whenever the time is appropriate to how to move forward.
Okay, before you do that, I want to state for the record one thing. The management plan relies heavily on volunteer effort. The volunteer effort has to have a starting point, someone to say, okay, let's get this together today, tomorrow, whatever, we're going to go out and we're going to do this part of a trail or whatever. That's the thing that's been lacking. So that can be taken up at the local area committee and should be pushed in that direction. So volunteers are important, and if you want volunteers to participate, they need to be able to use what's there for them. All right, you ready to make a motion?
And I also do want to add to that, though, that I do think it should be properly marked. I don't think people should be trespassing on private property.
Well, and I didn't even know that what we're proposing should eliminate that.
Right.
It would.
Yeah.
Okay, if I can add. Okay, when Paul really was a spearhead and took a drone and went in and tried to find places that would be easiest and went through the whole area. So I put on a set of chest waders and crossed the swamp into the area where we're talking, where Paul had kind of set us out. I went to see what it would take to get to Sandy Run. Just if someday the loop that had been mentioned, which it is quite a walk, you know, and with a set of waders on. On my way back, I kind of missed where I came in, which put me going towards the Casper property. Well, I don't know who the fellow was that spoke. I spent a many hour in that wood since I was born and raised here and hunted in there. It's easy to get turned around, folks, I hate to tell you. Next thing I knew, I really wasn't quite sure where I was. Thank God for cell phones. Now you can pinpoint yourself. Well, I was at Casper's horse pen. If I hadn't had my waders on and I'd come in from Kitty Hawk's estates, and as I was as turned around as I was, I would have probably gone out of the Casper's, to be honest, than to try to cross the swamp without waders. So if we do what we were talking about, the crossover's quite a ways from Casper's property, and plenty of time to say, this is the end of the trail, and divert all that crowd right into the parking lot. And I don't think you'll have the problem that I have. I think people will exit where the exit is. I don't think they'll choose to go, and if they do, they're going to spin around and go back. It's easier to walk back and go across a walkway than it is to go through all them horses. I don't like horses very much. No offense, guys. Y'all know that. Y'all all know that. They're too big for me. But it would be easier for me to go through there. But, you know, most people don't want to go through a horse pen to get out. I think a lot of those people didn't know what else to do. So I think that management, I've been on that management, the local advisory committee since it was formed. There is a lot of change over there. Sometimes we have good management, and sometimes we don't. It depends on which site manager we've had here since 1998, which has been quite a few, as we all know. But there is a need for management signage that would eliminate, especially the situation of the property owners we're talking about on particularly Ms. Casper's property and the property owners on that street. Management is a big thing, for sure. But this will help all the problems that I think as far as people wandering off the trail. When you don't know where the trail is, it's not hard to wander off. But, you know, clear markings, enter and exit points, parking, it's all been needed, it's all been talked about. There's been studies by independent groups, probably 3 or 4 since I've been on that board, and we haven't seen any parking. Access is big, parking's bigger, you know. Most of our parking's taking place on right-of-ways and controversial land. So it's a two-way. We're eliminating 2 things here. So that's it.
I got a question for Andy, if I can ask. Andy, if we decline the grant and decide to proceed on our own, which I'm in favor of, do we foresee any permitting issues from coastal management? Do we know that answer?
I don't think it's not in the Camas jurisdiction, and then also the coastal reserve, I don't think would issue any types of permits. However, they do have that conservation easement in place, so I would have to review
Casey, what do you?
that easement have Casey review that from a legal perspective. Now, as far as from the environmental perspective, they've already been notified of everything, and there's really not a lot of permits, any permits that are really needed in that area to traverse the wetlands. It's just a boardwalk going over the wetlands, similar to what we did at Sandy Run.
Mayor Pro Tem, from a permitting standpoint, I don't, no issues there. I think that was your question.
It is.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Just wanted to be sure.
David, you wanted to make a motion?
I do. I think the land should be enjoyed by all people. That's what it's here for. And for that reason, I'm going to make a motion instructing the town manager to inform the state that the town of Kitty Hawk declines a much appreciated grant for a crossover access in a conservation area. Town takes this action in order to preserve the ability to work toward restoring all historical use by our citizens of conservation lands owned by the town of Kitty Hawk.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right. Now, I think we have to speak with the attorney in closed session, so I'm going to make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, TAC 318.11, Parent Alpha, Parent 3, to consult with the town attorney, protect the attorney-client privilege with regards to the Kitty Hawk Woods Conservation Easement and Management Plan. Having said that, I don't foresee any big announcements because we're instructing him how to proceed to protect your rights, and those are not things that will be made public. So you can stay outside if you want, but we need you out of the hall in order to do this.
Feel free to stick around outside.
I didn't get a second on that, Bill.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
They voted.
I know, but I need a second.
Second.
I'm sorry?